And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world. This is, of course, Coffee Talk, or at Coffee Talk Live if you're looking for me on YouTube, as well as Prepper University on YouTube. I suppose that would be at Prepper University. And if you are so inclined, at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as Fist. That's right, fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon as we get ready to have a discussion about what is going on in the world today. And we take a look at some of the news, which I will read off and discuss. I will read off and discuss. You all see Dusty here keeping me company for a minute, for those of you who can see. And for those of you who cannot see, naturally, I will be reading through as many of the comments as is realistic to help you to keep up with the conversation as it goes on the live portion that takes place on YouTube, Coffee Talk, and Prepper University simultaneously at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from middle of nowhere, Georgia, double secret location on double secret probation. And I'll greet some of the people that have chimed in here thus far. I see Dilo is here, Helta, Donna Beaver. Yes, he says we got much needed rain. Yeah, it is raining where I am. Dragon is here. Urban Angst from British Columbia. Keisha is here. Bingo is here. Dilo says there were 2 ads. Also, I got 4 cents. Velvet Pilot is here. All People is here. Yes, it's little baby Dusty. Not exactly a baby anymore, but there she is. She's a sweetheart, really. And I see Ghost Wolf Primal is here. Howdy from Texas. Glad you could make it today. Again, as we get ready to pop into some snippets from the news, some things you may have heard, some things you may not have heard. And of course, I will give my sarcastic commentary as always, because there's always a lot of hypocrisy in the news, things that just don't make any sense. Now, first of all, the most obvious thing, and I see that Deanna says got an ad, cha-ching. I guess. And eventually I'll earn enough to get a payoff. Oh, and by the way, don't know who it was, but thank you to whoever sent the bag of Blue Buffalo cat food to the P.O. box. Picked that up today. Very much appreciated. It's great when people send cat supplies to the P.O. box because it does help us quite a bit. And I see Fight the Future has made it today as well, as we get ready to take a look at some of the things here. This is something that has been big in the news. Saw this coming a mile away because they couldn't keep it up for long. They can't help themselves. And this comes from Reuters. It's going to be the article here, at which point it pops up. There we go. 2 Hamas gunmen opened fire at Jerusalem bus stop, killing 3. Yep, the truce, the ceasefire, the hostage exchange is off the table. Off the table because 2 Hamas gunmen shot people up at a bus stop in Jerusalem. And so Israel was like, nah, that's it. Deal's off. And big surprise there. As we get into the article, it says 2 Hamas gunmen killed 3 people at a Jerusalem bus stop during morning rush hour on Thursday, and Israel reiterated its commitment to wiping out the Palestinian Islamist faction, whose October 7th killing spree triggered the Gaza war. The attackers, Palestinians from East Jerusalem, were shot dead by off-duty soldiers and an armed civilian. Police said at least 8 people were also wounded in the shooting. And that's, if you're looking right now, this is the actual film footage from the security camera on the light post. I'll back it up again so that you can catch it. If you missed it the first time, here it comes. They actually had traffic camera footage of this. Here it is. So you can see that what's going on there. And then the two gunmen did not get away because an armed civilian and off-duty officer shot them dead on the scene. As we continue on, it says the terrorists arrived at the scene by car in the morning armed with an M16 rifle and a handgun. Police said the terrorists began shooting at civilians before subsequently being killed at the scene. Security camera footage obtained by Reuters shows a white car stopping beside the crowded bus stop. Two men then stepped out, guns drawn, and charged at the crowd as people scattered. Shortly afterwards, the Palestinian attackers are themselves shot. A large number of first responders and security forces converged in the area that was crowded with mourning commuters. The slain victims were identified by Israeli media as a woman in her 20s, a woman in her 60s, and a 74-year-old rabbi. So, yeah, deal's off, everybody. Big surprise. They just couldn't wait, could they? Couldn't wait to get the hostage exchange going. And, of course, what you want to get down, Dusty? Here you go, sweetie. The exchange, which did they even get around to actual Israeli citizens being released? And the people that Israel were giving up were younger people and some females, but they were being detained for knife attacks, throwing rocks, stuff like that. They were adjutants. But yeah, I guess it's off the table for now until the UN or the EU or the United States or somebody coerces them into opening up a dialogue again. Because, of course, governments in the Western world just do not understand how things work down there. Israel barely understands it anymore because Israel's become kind of westernized as opposed to the rest of the Middle East, which is still a very tribal, analogical thought, shame and honor society. And they don't let things go. They've been fighting about the same stuff for literally thousands of years. In a shame and honor society, naturally you seek revenge, and seeking revenge for having or feeling like you were wronged, or for a relative or someone having been wronged, is more important than right or wrong. See, in a logical, rational society like in the West, then you rely more on law, the rule of law, for the most part, unless the law just gets ridiculous, which is why Rome always had trouble in the Middle East and in Israel. So, which is also where the whole thing with Jesus saying when someone slaps your cheek, turn the other cheek. He doesn't mean that if someone wrongs you, you should suck it up. It's a attack at that whole mindset of shame and honor that goes on in analogical thought process society like that, analogical rational thought or tribal society, where if you slap me, you shamed me, you stole my honor, and so I must seek revenge on you. And the whole turn the other cheek doesn't mean that you let yourself get run over, that you allow yourself to be a victim, so on and so forth. But if you slapped me, and how far are you willing to take it? My honor's been shamed, so I'll go as far as killing your child to get even with you for that slap. That's common in the Middle East, and it was in Jesus's day too. That's actually what that passage is about in the Bible. Urban says the last number I heard was 107 Israeli and foreign hostages have been released, but 135 remain in Gaza or dead. Because every time I read anything, it was people from Thailand or something that was getting released. So I don't know exactly. Dragon says people fail to understand Hamas doesn't care about truce or peace. Their goal is extermination and world domination. Yeah, and again, that's that honor society. And, following through again, you slap me in the face, my honor is stolen. I kill your son to get even with you for it. Now your honor has been stolen. Then you go and you blow up my car. Then I go and burn down your house. Then you go and you kill my brother, and back and forth and back and forth. And this is expected. This is expected. But from a Western mentality, people don't understand all that. And they're like, what the hell is wrong with you people? And then they think that they can open up a dialogue and we'll just talk to them and get them to sign this paper and it'll end. No, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. What's wrong with you people? What's wrong with you people? They're not that smart. They don't understand. They failed their college philosophy classes, I guess. I had over 120% in my college philosophy class. I was beyond an A plus. As we shift around here, here's someone that hasn't come up for quite a while. Hasn't come up for quite a while, but to further show you how screwed up the world is, this comes from State of the Union. There's your buddy Dylan, transmogrified influencer Dylan Mulvaney lands coveted spot on the Forbes list. And there he is. And the article reads, Forbes magazine honored transmogrified women and alphabet mafia activist Dylan Mulvaney on its 30 under 30 social media list for her influence in the creator economy and her documented gender transition. He changed gender. He had the boys chopped off. I don't think so. The list also featured other young social media creators, and Mulvaney's Days of Girlhood, TikTok series, which drew over 1 billion views, was highlighted. Did it really? That's appalling. But again, people like watching a freak show. And I've brought it up before. If you go back and you look at a documentary about circus freaks or sideshow freaks, when they used to do that sort of thing, they made more money than the whole rest of the show. People want to see a freak show. That's what this is. Because when this guy started the whole thing, he was doing what? Pretending to be a little girl. Then when Bud Light came along, which Bud Light deeply regrets now, we have people from within Anheuser-Busch saying that they believe they'll never get their customers back who walked away. Suddenly, when that offer came down the pipe, Dylan decides he's a woman and drops the whole little girl act. This is one of the biggest frauds being perpetrated on people in modern history in the last decade, is Dylan pretending to go through any kind of transition and convincing people, because they want to believe it, that he thinks he's a girl now. Because I think it's a fraud. I don't believe this person at all. That's my opinion of it. And I think it's a sad state of affairs that this person gets 30 under 30 Forbes listing at all. But to be fair, if he truly did pull 1 billion TikTok views, he probably got a pretty fat check out of it. Nature Nerd says Stefan Molyneux too philosophical for YouTube, is he? I used to watch him up until he did an episode, or he had a video clip. I think I've mentioned this before, and I don't like name dropping, but he did a thing where he was insulted by somebody making a small donation on his channel. I think they donated like $5 or something, and they had some request or whatever, and he was mad. And I'm like, it's 5 more than you had, buddy. What are you complaining about? You know what I mean? And let me see. Sven says, America is an unserious country. We demand others do what we do. We kicked out 8,000 plus troops for the stick and asked them back. 19 accepted. This is sad. Some of those soldiers are now suing because of lost wages and lost benefits due to being forced to walk away for not taking it since the mandate was lifted. Nature Nerd says nothing like Stefan Molyneux's show. I haven't seen it for a long time. Helta says, I've always wondered how Forbes is still viable and selling magazine subscriptions in 2023. I wonder how they're at it. People are fools for giving Dylan any attention whatsoever. Dragon says no magazine or newspaper is worth the paper they're printed on unless wokeness, useless wokeness in every way. So none of these honors are actually anything a real person would care about. Hold on a second. Had to shut the door. But magazines and newspapers are mostly dead entities now anyway. Do they even deliver newspapers anymore? Do most papers even make a daily paper anymore, or just a Sunday edition? Or magazines. Magazine sections used to be massive, and now there's nothing. There's nothing there, and the magazines are ridiculously expensive. They're like $13, $14, $15 because there's no demand for them. And mostly you get a subscription online or something now. Plus all of those magazines that used to be important in that regard, like Forbes or Newsweek or Time, used to talk a lot about news and not so much social stuff. Bingo says the gunman had M16s. I bet we are arming both sides. That's a possibility. And Keisha made a $10 donation to the channel. Thank you, Keisha. Very much appreciated. Goes a long way, of course, towards helping with taking care of the stray animals. And again, we're taking care of 10 right now. We're taking care of 10. Fight the Future says he was an avid sports fan and comic fan till the woke came. Yeah, comic books are destroyed. It's like modern comic books are like gay romance novels now. It's really sick. Nature Nerd says I sometimes get Burger King coupons in the mail. Yeah, mail has gone down quite a bit too. Actual mail in your mailbox. And Urban Angst says we are basically forced to deny our own lying eyes. How are people not seizing from the cognitive dissonance? It's a man with a you-know-what with a penis. Sorry, YouTube. And yeah, again, in the case of Dylan Mulvaney, because I'm convinced it's an act. He is an actor with a very mediocre career. His acting resume is not interesting. Came up with this idea because he used to do, if you go way back and you look, he used to do like nature walk kind of thing. He would walk around in the woods or something or on a trail, and nobody looked at that. Then all of a sudden he's a girl, and then people ate it up. Like I pointed out, a lot of times people like to look at the freak show. Sven says if the video is accurate, the attackers on October 7th had M4s with ACOGs. Where did they get that? Black market. I don't know. But I mean, you could easily make the argument that the Biden administration is funding both sides, because twice now they've released huge funds to Iran that had been blocked. 6 billion and now 10 billion, with the pinky promise: swear to God, cross your heart and hope to die, stick a needle in your eye, that you'll use the money for humanitarian purposes. And Iran's like, sure, Joe, we'll do that. And then after they got the $6 billion released, they were like, screw you, Joe, we'll do what we want, because that's how it works in the Middle East. That's how it works. Now, here's something I talked about the other day, and it had to do with the hunger strike, because that Sex and the City star was crying that she was going to go on a hunger strike, but then that hunger strike turned out to be a 5-day hunger strike that she was starting to protest the war in Israel and Gaza. And I was like, if you're not going to eat for 5 days, that's not a hunger strike. That's a fast. And 5 days is no big deal unless you're really sick and you can't afford to miss a meal. The average person, you should be able to go 5 days in a snap, no problem. After you get through that first 24-hour transition and those pangs subside, you're good to go. I know from experience. Nature Nerd says, will future superhero movies be the gay romance novels we have now? Probably. They're already bad enough, and they've already tried to slip some of that in. You had a taste of it in Endgame, and you missed it. In Endgame, when Captain America is sitting in a council session, it's like a what are you, like an AA meeting or something he was sitting in, and some guy's whining about going on a date with some dude or whatever, and it has nothing to do with anything in the movie. It has nothing to do with the storyline. It's like, why are we talking about two dudes going on a date out of nowhere in the middle of this film? And Savage says, stay off the Bud Light. Look what it did to that beer girl. Messed her up. Beer girls are supposed to look good in a bikini, make me want to buy their crappy beer. Yeah, I know, huh? And they're supposed to carry like 6 steins in each hand. Sven says 5 days. That's how you get rid of inflammation. Yeah, 5 days is no big deal. This comes from the Washington Post. Outside the White House, ravaged by hunger. Protesters strike for Gaza. They're ravaged. Oh, I don't even need to read the rest of this. That is pathetic. They're ravaged by hunger. If they're even honestly not eating, because I don't know. Like I said, they ain't Gandhi. Okay. You could see when Gandhi was at the end of a hunger strike and they carried him to the hospital and he couldn't even sit up. All right. These people are not ravaged. It says it was day 4 of not eating, and Sumaya Awad was exhausted. Her eyes were sunken. She'd been repeating herself in the middle of the night. She kept waking up with severe headaches. Well, stay hydrated. You won't have headaches. Drink some water, sweetie. Still, Awad wanted to keep depriving her body of food. She told herself she had no choice. But the Palestinians in Gaza, who have lost access to shelter, food, and water in the war, she said, do not. I don't know if she's sticking to her promise. She could be cheating. She could be cheating every night. She'll be sneaking off and getting herself a nice fat burger. You know, I think of Ali G, the Ali G movie. I don't know if any of you ever saw it. He's protesting and going on a hunger strike in the very opening scene of the film. And he's got himself chained to a fence. And the camera crew is filming him, and he says, I is on a hunger strike. And the guy's eating chicken nuggets. And he holds one out, and Ali G lunges forward and bites it. And then he says, no, wait, start over. The hunger strike starts now. Awad has decided to join more than 20 others outside the White House throughout the week in a 5-day hunger strike to force the Biden administration to demand a permanent ceasefire at a time when Israel and Hamas has agreed to a pause in fighting to allow more aid to enter Gaza and more hostages to be released. Well, that's over with now, honey. Your side blew it. Your side blew it yesterday. And who gives a damn if 20 people sit in front of the White House and refuse to eat? Again, like I said, I don't know. They could go home and have a nice fat meal. Muslims do it all the time with their 30 days of fasting, but they eat at sundown. Yeah, I mean, what a joke. People are so stupid. It makes me sick. Bingo says, I personally fast every day between each meal. Yeah, exactly. And Sven says, if you are American, you are not ravaged unless you are a law-abiding citizen in Chicago. And then Savage says, Helsinki girls are still hot. They're European, but still hotter than American guy in a bikini. I would think almost any female would be hotter than a guy in a bikini. And the warden says half those jackasses protesting can't even spell hunger. And then Nature Nerd says anime and manga are superior to U.S. comics and superhero box office movies right now. The only good superhero series is Boys on Amazon, which is a pretty degenerate content. I have seen The Boys. I really couldn't finish watching it because it is so vulgar. Lots of really vulgar language and lots of really graphic sex in it. And I don't care for all of that. You know, I'm not like 12. And Urban says she will ruin her kidneys by denying herself water, and then she'll become a burden on the healthcare system because world peace. Well, I would hope that at least she would be drinking some water. I've had fasts and I've had situations where I had no food and I've gone long periods of time without eating. And 5 days is not a big deal. I'm sorry. It really is not. I'm not impressed with that. I don't know that they're being honest with their so called fast. I'm calling it a fast. They're calling it a hunger strike. And again, if you have a designated end date, it is not a hunger strike. It is indeed a fast. And Carrick says that was funny. And Savage says Gandhi went on a hunger strike. Buddha went on a hunger strike. Yeah, and at least those people, the masses had respect for. Even the opposition had respect for Gandhi. You know what I mean? Even the British government had respect for the man. And Savage says they're German, so hairy armpits and slight mustaches. Oh no. Okay, Savage. That is Savage. One more snippet out of the article, and this is a quote. That is the only way for the violence to stop, said Awad, 29, of New York City. Oh, she's 29. She could fast for 5 days. It's just so astonishing that we have to be out here starving in the cold to relay the message that Palestinians deserve to live and that Palestinians deserve to be grieved just like any other person. Go there and do it, sweetheart, and see if they approve of you or not. See if they approve of you. I'm looking at this picture and I'm looking for the women with hijabs. I'm not seeing one. I'm seeing women with their hair out, which would not be permitted in the Gaza. Just making that point real quick. I mean, I could be seeing it wrong, but this one's wearing a hat. But she's got her hair out. She's got her hair out. She's got her hair out. Not permitted in Gaza. Just making the point. Just making the point, sweetheart. I don't think you really understand how things go out there. I wonder about that all the time. Do you really understand how things work in the Middle East? And it says President Biden swiftly supported Israel after the October 7th attack on the country by Hamas when gunmen from the militant group that controls Gaza broke through Israel's border. Notice that they stayed away from the term terrorist there. Important. Wording is always important. Killing at least 1,200 and taking others into Gaza as hostages. It was 1,400. Including some Americans. During this temporary pause, more than 100 hostages held on the Gaza Strip have been released. So I wonder how they feel now. I wonder if they're out there today fasting, since yesterday terrorists from the Gaza ended that ceasefire and started everything up again. Are you still on your hunger strike, sweetheart? Asking for a friend. Asking for a friend. And Spectre says he ran all the way here. Glad you made it, Spectre. And Sven says no judgment, but am I the only one that doesn't like Gandhi due to his views on Jews? Should just give themselves up to the Nazis. No one said Gandhi was a saint. He was just respected. I don't know what he thought would have happened. That maybe things would have gone better for him. Keep in mind, he was very, very against fighting back. However, he was able to get everybody to stage walkouts. There were times where nothing worked in India. The electricity was off. The gas was off. The trains weren't running because everybody would walk out, and it was countrywide. That took a lot of influence, and that's what it takes to get a protest across. You can't get an accomplishment like that anymore. The last time you got that far with anything was during Martin Luther King's era. Keisha says that the girl doing the hunger strike had really been without food. I don't think she would be so apt to do it. Well, she acts like she's starving to death, and it's like, you are not starving after on day 4, okay? Really, you're not. And Nature Nerd says fasting isn't usually cutting out all food. Most of the time, Orthodox, that fast means they cut out dairy, meat, or TV for a few weeks. It builds self-discipline and has health benefits. Well, that's sometimes that's the cheater's way, the Christian way to cheat. Oh, I'm going to fast from watching the nightly news, things like that. But if you're fasting from food, your body can handle being without food for a few days. It's not that big of a deal, and it is good for your health every once in a while to do that. And Fight the Future says it's liberal elites virtue signaling. Yeah, and it would be funny to find out that they cheated too. They were dropping by Mickey D's on the way home. Speaking of Joe, sweet old, lovable old, huggable old, trustworthy Uncle Joe. This comes from State of the Union. Biden White House worked with big tech to censor C virus misinformation. And we already know, it's already been revealed that they pressured TikTok and Facebook. And now they're admitting that they pressured YouTube as well. The Biden administration collaborated with YouTube to tackle C virus vaccine misinformation in 2021. Was it misinformation? Now, the thing that's interesting about it is they're coming at us like this is new. And it drives me nuts when news articles act like something is brand new. And we all knew this in 2021. I knew it for sure because, again, you remember I got suspended on ScrewTube for doing a video responding to a question saying that I did not take the jab. And I got struck as with misinformation and suspended for a week. And I'm like, how is it misinformation, medical misinformation, for me to say that I didn't do something? I didn't tell anyone else what to do. I didn't tell people you better not do it. I don't care. Do it. Do it or don't. That's your choice. But they censored a lot of people. I that's why I say C virus to this day, because I would get in trouble for it. My videos would get strikes. It says internal documents obtained by Fox Business revealed that the White House sought assistance from Google to quell vaccine hesitancy and misinformation. Really, this is the key right here, is vaccine hesitancy. People didn't trust it. So if you talked about it, they didn't want your voice to be heard. Former White House Director of Digital Strategy, Rob Flatherly, led the campaign and corresponded with Google team members about combating misinformation. And of course, in the modern era, misinformation is whatever information is out there that doesn't fit their narrative. It doesn't necessarily have to be false. It can be true and doesn't fit their narrative, so they want to stop it. The documents also show that the White House was particularly interested in YouTube's policies and work to reduce borderline content. Really, Flatherly's interested in what we're seeing that is not coming down. An email thread read between Google staff. There's a very high degree of interest now coming from the White House now regarding vaccine misinformation, vaccine hesitancy, and our work around borderline content. Unfortunately, the role of tech in addressing vaccine hesitancy is about to come under a mass spotlight, particularly as the supply of the vaccine is soon to outpace the demand. Read the April 2021 correspondence. We were hoping to get something on the books in the next 2 weeks or so to prevent anything from potentially spiraling out of control. So they had a lot of vaccine coming in. People were hesitant, vaccine hesitancy, to actually take it because, it's untested and unproven. And they wanted to wait and see, which is understandable, over a virus that very likely is not nearly as bad as was made out to be. We had all these lockdowns. We had all this nonsense going on. I wouldn't want to take it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. A lot of people didn't. People were losing their jobs over it with mandates. People in professional capacity that worked for city and state government, soldiers, firemen, police officers, nurses, doctors losing their jobs because they were afraid of the damn thing. They weren't sure. And they had a right. They should have had a right to refuse. Yeah, you have a right to refuse, but you may not have a job. And God forbid you talk about it on social media. And like I keep saying, I mean, they act like this is brand new. We all knew this because we were going through it. All articles like this do is confirm that. Confirm that there was a negative influence, that we were being manipulated. And if we're being manipulated, we're very likely being lied to. Sven says he's ravaged by hunger and he made breakfast burrito and peanut butter toast at 9. There you go. And Savage says, I fast when I feel I need to, 3 to 4 days. It's a good palate cleanser. Only water, staying hydrated is important. Yeah. Keisha says they saw a video the other day of them wheeling Jimmy Carter to his wife's funeral. They had gotten him out of a hospice to go. He looked so bad and old. Yeah, he's in real bad shape. And Helter said misinformation is dealt with by debunking their claim with facts and logic, not by silencing them. If you can't show the error and all you do is shut it down, I assume they are on to something. Exactly. And Dragon says, I'm still unvaxxed thanks to the ability to think for myself. And Merv said, what's a good antidote for the vaccine or something to reverse the side effects? Yeah, you don't know what's in that shot. If you were forced to take it, my best recommendation, and I'm going way off track here, and all I can say is this is something to consider. I cannot tell you to do this, but you can purchase a snakebite kit. The snakebite kit that is designed to suction fluid out of your skin if you were bit by a poisonous snake, and use that to draw out at least some, if not most, of the vaccine from the vaccine site, since it was introduced intramuscularly, so it's not going to enter the bloodstream too quickly. If you've ever seen these, it's a little suction device that you put over the hole that you draws the fluid out of the skin if you've been bitten by a snake. If you look up snake bite kit on eBay, on Amazon, you'll find one. If you were ever forced, just throwing it out there, just mentioning that for the sake of argument, Savage said, screw Gandhi. If I could go back in time and fist fight any historical figure, I'd fight Gandhi. Oh, there you go. Beat up on poor Gandhi. Urban says the more Trudeau attempts to censor those who speak against him, the more people wake up. But is it too late? The propaganda is still affecting many Canadians to turn a blind eye to the takeover. And I will remind you all, and again, one of these days I'm going to put it on a t-shirt. I've seriously considered it. You can wake up the sheep, but don't expect much, because they're still sheep after all. You wake the sheep up, they're still sheep. What do you expect them to do? Very few of them are going to be willing to act. Just because they're aware of something doesn't mean they're going to do anything about it, unto pain of death, willing to do anything about it. You just can't trust that people are going to stand up, are going to take a stand. You've all seen that cartoon, or it's like usually a newspaper cartoon, I think it was originally, and it's been used in memes, where the one person stands up and there's a crowd on their knees in front of a person with like a whip or something, and one person stands up, and then 2 people stand up, and then 5 people stand up, and it's supposed to show you that if you all stand together, you can overcome the guy who's oppressing you. The truth of it is, though, that when the one person stands up and then the crowd stands up around them, it's because they want to pull him back down on his knees because they're all scared. Sven says they promised to kill me last if I went along. That's it. You remember what happened to, what's that guy's name? In Commando, in Arnold Schwarzenegger's Commando. And Benny, it was a Benny, right? And he held him out with one hand over the cliff. And he says, "You remember I promised to kill you last?" And he was like, "That's right, Matrix, you said that." And he goes, "I lied," and opened his hand and dropped him down the cliff. Who remembers that? Nature Nerd says India was a lot bigger when Pakistan and Bangladesh were part of India. Yeah, and after Gandhi's death is when they fell apart, right? And Dragon says what I just said reminded him of crabs in the bucket. Exactly. As we move along here, we're going to jump to an article from News Nation. Yeah, people will pull you down. They'll suppress you. They want to shut you up because they don't want to deal with the trouble associated with someone taking a stand. They're afraid. News Nation. We've been talking about this a lot. I told you it's coming. They're going to at least try. China with their hospitals are packed. And look at how all the Beijing hospital is full. Beijing hospital's always full. It's been like that forever. Okay. There's always 1,000 people in their waiting room. Well, they're spraying the streets. There's this new disease, this lung inflammation. Here it comes. What is white lung syndrome? The Ohio child pneumonia outbreak, ? Now they're claiming it's in the US. And I saw an article earlier in the UK also. The news is full of this right now. Again, News Nation. And they're talking about the outbreak. It says an outbreak of pediatric pneumonia cases in Ohio is causing concern among parents worried the spread of the illness is linked to a surge in similar cases where? In China and other countries around the globe. Ohio is the first state in the U.S. to report an outbreak of the illness with an extremely high number of children being hospitalized. The strain of pneumonia dubbed white lung syndrome has spawned 142 pediatric cases in Ohio's Warren County since August of this year, according to a press release from the Warren County Health District. So first they throw that number out, 142, and they make it sound like there's a big epidemic. But now you're telling us it's since August, but you want to connect it to recent events in China? Did I miss something? The number of cases exceeds the country average and meets the Ohio Department of Health's definition of outbreak. However, officials do not think it is a new respiratory disease, but rather a large uptick in the number of pneumonia cases normally seen at one time, according to WCHD spokesperson. The average age of the affected children is 8, with the youngest being 3 years old. Okay, but they're trying to tie this together. Now, right after this story came out, and it's time stamped 10:31 Central Standard Time. It's right here. Updated 10:31 a.m. CST. Right after this, now Massachusetts is claiming it. Massachusetts put out a thing saying that they're having an outbreak of white lung syndrome. And what the hell is that, you're asking? What the hell is white lung syndrome? Whatever the respiratory disease is, if you x-ray somebody's chest, it's got little white spots. That's why they call it that. But they're trying to tie it in into what's going on in China. So yeah, get ready for it. Get ready for it, folks. They're at least going to try. They really loved the control that they had over populations during the pandemic with the C virus lockdowns and mandates and people wearing masks and people wearing gloves and people getting shots and closing stores and all the nonsense that came with it, that even people who were diehard believers at the time now seriously question whether or not they had the wool pulled over their eyes. Although there are still a lot of people out there who believe it, because you go out in the street, you go to the store, you go to a shopping mall, you go to the if anybody still goes to shopping malls, they're pretty much dead. You go to Walmart, you go to the supermarket, you're still going to see people walking around with a utility belt full of hand sanitizer and wearing a pair of gloves and wearing a mask and getting the little wipe up at the front vestibule where the shopping cart corral is, and wiping the carriage down like they're going to get cooties from it. There's still people that are seriously bought in, but what are you going to do? Savage said, "Commando back when Arnold was still a manly man, not woke." Yeah, he let a lot of people down when he said "screw your freedom." That's how the Shaw Classic came about, because Brian Shaw was a professional strongman who was part of the Arnold Classic. And when Arnold said that, he threw all of Arnold's stuff out of his gym and started his own classic, the Shaw Classic now, which it runs against the Arnold Classic for strongman competitions. Urban says, "I vaguely remember Benny. I will have to rewatch it now." Benny was the same actor who was in The Warriors. You might famously remember him as, if you saw The Warriors, he was the guy with the beer bottles on his fingers, and he was clacking them together and going, "Warriors, come out to play, yay," like that, which was an improvised scene. They said they told him to just do something annoying, and it's like one of the most famous scenes in the film now. But yeah, it was the same actor. Savage says, "Do not disturb my friend. He's dead tired." Yeah, too cheesy but funny. Yeah, don't disturb my friend. That's on the airplane. That's right, when he broke dude's neck. And here's Raccoon Eyes. Made it today. Glad you could pop in. Helter says, to us sane people that are aware of what's been going on during the pandemic and even afterwards, this is nothing new, but to the sheep, they are easily brainwashed. They might not be saved. And again, when you see people like that, you have this inkling of, you know what? Go ahead and suffer and die then. Whatever happens to you, tough. I feel like that myself sometimes, where I'm like, screw you people. Go on and destroy your life. See if I care. But again, they will take everybody else with them. They will drag you down with them as they sink. That's the problem. Bingo says, "The video I saw of the Chinese hospitals, there were barely any kids waiting. I'm thinking it was a B-roll of the C virus." Yeah, and that's the point that I brought up when I showed those video clips myself earlier in the week. I didn't see any kids. I thought the Beijing hospital was flooded with 7,000 children. That's what the article said. I didn't see one kid. I don't think I did. And again, the Beijing hospital always looks like that. The Beijing hospital always has a 24 to 32 or 34-hour wait to get through the emergency room. Social medicine, anyone? All people said Ohio had a lot of migrants flooded in, especially from Africa and Caribbean, in order to convert it from a red to a blue state. And Nature Nerd says Ohio has high levels of heavy toxic metals in the soil and groundwater due to all their industrial manufacturing. Environment affects your health. And Savage said 6 feet to stop transmission. The vax wasn't designed to stop transmission at all. We might as well be doing the hokey pokey. Yeah. You know what's funny about the whole 6 feet thing? You're standing in line at the post office. You're standing in line at the supermarket, keeping a 6-foot distance so that you don't get any bad air from the person in front of you. This is the idea, right? So when the line moves forward, what happens? You step right into their cloud of vapor from where they were breathing. So what the hell difference does it make? Oh, Dragon says Plandemic 2.0 happening right before the 2024 presidential election. How convenient. Absolutely. And Sven says he has a relative. Apologize to them for being a drag to me about no longer being a Democrat. We likely will vote for the same person this time. And Raccoon's Eyes says they love the Warriors. It's a classic film. Classic film. And Brian said Arnold Schwarzenegger called Trump supporters Nazis. He would know. Take a look at his family history. And Urban wants to rewatch The Warriors now too. And Monkey said they got Somalians to the point where it's a selected language on Ohio's government site. Youch! That is nuts. That is nuts. And since we're moving migrants around, get ready for it, blue states. This comes from the messenger. It says Texas is going to be busing 70,000 more migrants to sanctuary cities across the U.S. Yeah, they're stopping them from coming through anymore because Texas is going against the Biden administration's mandates. They're bucking the system with their current laws, which are ratified by its people. The people in Texas are standing behind it because they're overrun. And so they're starting to crack down on people crossing over, but they still got a lot of people sitting there. Well, they got tickets for 70,000 more people to find their way to New York and Chicago and San Francisco and Boston. Texas Governor Greg Abbott appeared to claim Wednesday that he plans to bus some 70,000 additional migrants across the United States to relieve border towns. Abbott said in a post on X that Texas would continue to send new arrivals to sanctuary cities until Biden secures the border. Those cities include Los Angeles, New York, Washington, D.C., and Chicago. They have been left to find ways to look after the thousands who have turned up on their doorstep. Yeah, it's no fun when you're the one paying for it. In an update on November 17th, Abbott's office announced that thousands have been sent to the listed cities so far since Operation Lone Star began. The state has continued to send migrants across the country since then, so the numbers the governor predicts may include those already sent. I don't know about that, but we'll see what happens. Following Abbott's post Wednesday, many replies called for migrants to be sent home rather than across the country. Others said the numbers should be higher. I agree with sending them home. I've been saying it since the get-go that those people need to be repatriated. They need to be sent back wherever the hell they came from. There is nothing unethical or immoral about saying we can't deal with it. It's too much of a burden on our society, and it's too much of a cost to our taxpayers. Sorry, you need to go home. And it's cheaper. It would be a lot cheaper to send them home, to repatriate them, because they shouldn't be here. They're not true asylum seekers. There are some, but the majority of them are just illegally crossing, looking for a handout or looking to cause trouble or running from the law. Or God knows what they're doing here. God knows what they're doing. Nature Nerd says stay 6 feet away, but sneezes go 60 miles an hour. Exactly. And Monkey says, yeah, it's enough to where it's along with English and Spanish. Oh, we're talking about the languages in the Ohio. But most of the Somalians are in Columbus. And Bingo says, got to go. Have a good weekend, everyone. Well, glad you were able to pop in today, Bingo. Hope you have a good day. So there you go. I mean, he's going to continue to send them around all over the country to these sanctuary cities who are crying because they can't handle it now after mocking Texas and Arizona for their not being able to manage it. Oh, well. That's too bad. Tough monkeys, as they used to say. As we pop around to a Fox News article. I don't think we had a Fox article today. Talking about Philadelphia. Because Philadelphia has a solution to their crime wave. They have a solution. Philadelphia bans ski masks. No discernible public or private good. You know, it does get cold in Philadelphia. I would wear a ski mask. But yeah, crime wave, ban ski masks. That's all right. Ban a ski mask. Philadelphia on Thursday banned ski masks and other facial coverings in the city on the grounds that most crime there has been committed by suspects wearing them. The vote passed 13-2 despite some opposition. We must send a message that masks are of no discernible public or private good when they just create fear and anxiety. So the crime's not causing fear and anxiety. And you want to send a message that people shouldn't wear ski masks. I see. Does that work the same way as a gun-free zone? Oh, I have a gun-free zone sticker on the front of my store, so I can't be robbed because no criminal would bring their gun in here. I see. I understand now. So they can't wear some other mask. They can't put on one of those surgical masks and a pair of glasses and rob me. It's only because of ski masks. That's going to solve the problem. The new law prohibits people from wearing ski masks in parks, schools, or on public transportation. Those caught wearing a ski mask risk a $250 fine and up to $2,000 if committing a crime. So if you're caught wearing a ski mask while committing a crime, they'll tack on an extra $2,000, and that'll prevent it from happening. It doesn't occur to them that maybe I won't put the ski mask on until I'm ready to commit the crime. And who's going to enforce this? Who's going to enforce this when you've reduced your police force? I'm just asking. I'm curious how that's going to work. Keisha says that's Pennsylvania for you. This is going to be, this trumps Dylan Mulvaney for the stupidest article of the day. Dragon says, I highly doubt this new law will have any effect on hardened criminals in Philadelphia, but it will cause some innocent people to have cold faces or get a fine for nothing. I wear a ski mask sometimes if it's cold enough. I haven't needed one in a long time because it doesn't get that cold in Georgia, but you know what I mean. All People says, wait, rumor has it that it's always sunny in Philadelphia. Oh, no. Little pun there. And Monkey says, reminds me of Dora when she says, Swiper, no swiping. 3 times, Swiper gives up and runs. These lawmakers are trying that. And Savage says, what happens when they start using scarves to cover their face? Yeah, or a bandana like in the Old West. Pull the bandana up over your nose and pull the brim of your hat down and stick them up. Stick them up, cowboy. And Urban says, regarding the ski mask law, is this a roundabout way of getting rid of the Hamas operatives and all those pro-Palestinian rallies? I don't, well, you know, their argument will be that they're wearing a shema. And Helter says, what are they going to do when a practicing Muslim woman wears a face and head covering? Yeah, well, I hope they can discern between a ski mask and a hijab. And the warden says, so just wear an Anthony Fauci mask. Yeah, that's what you should do. That's what you should do. You should wear a Joe Biden and a Fauci mask. And who else? There's plenty of like really crooked politicians. That would be great. Obama. Like in Point Break. Was that Point Break, the dead presidents? And not the dead presidents, but everybody wore a mask of a president. Somebody had Jimmy Carter. Someone had Gerald Ford. Someone had Reagan. Was that Point Break with Keanu Reeves? And Monkey says, because if they can't discern a ski mask with a hijab, that's a classic First Amendment violation right there. Well, it's a violation. I think that's a foolish law anyways. That's going to be over enforced. You're going to catch up the wrong person and they could get that thrown out of court. I'm not paying that. I wasn't robbing anybody. Do I have a criminal history? You're going to give me a $250 ticket for trying to keep my face warm? Are you out of your minds? You can argue that into the ground. That is a really stupid, poorly thought out law. It really is. And it's not going to stop or change anything. It really is not. But with that, I'll go ahead and start wrapping things up again. This is Coffee Talk. Coffee Talk Live, or at Coffee Talk Live. If you can find me there on YouTube and give me a sub, I would appreciate it, as well as Prepper University on YouTube, Prepper University. And if you are so inclined to use it, X, formerly known as Twitter, you can find me at Coffee Talk Chat. And There's always Fistful of Radio, fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. And special thanks again to Keisha for making a donation to the channel to help out our furry friends. We do have shelter pets we take care of. Much appreciated. Always, any donation to the channel or goes to the P.O. box is always appreciated. And with that, I will go ahead and sign off. I'll catch you all again on Friday. Hope you got something out of the conversation. And thanks again to everybody who was able to join us today.